This is an analysis of a dialogue scene in Hitchcock's Psycho. It's not a very visually flamboyant scene. It's pretty subtle, but very effective at communicating the sense of claustrophobia that is overwhelming Norman as he has to answer this barrage of questions from the private investigator. So at this point in the story, Marion Crane has already gone out to the motel. She was murdered in the shower by Norman's mother. Norman covered up the crime, disposed of the body, and now we've got this private investigator who's come out to ask questions. We've got them both framed in a two-shot, and then we're going to cut to a medium shot here. Notice that Arbogast is framed in the mirror in the background, which will be important in a minute. And notice that lamp in the background that's illuminating a lot of the scene. At this point, the scene is relatively well illuminated. We can see a lot of the details around the characters. Now Norman looks at a picture to see if he recognizes the woman who's come out here. Notice that Hitchcock creates a very stable pattern with very standard shots. He does this so that if he has a shot that's even a little bit unusual, it stands out. It creates a jarring effect here. So he creates this very stable pattern only to disrupt it at specific moments here. We'll notice one of these moments here when Norman reaches out and remembers that he hasn't turned on the sign to the Bates Motel. Then we cut dramatically outside the motel. Now that shot, which takes us out of the room, reminds us of this earlier scene in the film where Marion Crane drives out to the hotel on a rainy night and is murdered at the Bates Motel. So even that just shot outside is kind of a visual juxtaposition to the lies that Norman's engaging in right now when he pretends to not remember anybody coming out to the motel there. And they don't have to accomplish that with an actual flashback. All they do is just one simple cut, and the associations that the viewer carries with them, carry that the weight of that previous visit. Now we'll notice another disruption of the pattern here with this dramatic shot close up on the registry as he's looking for names of people who've come. Norman says that nobody's been there recently. And then we've got a particularly jarring, disorienting shot as Norman realizes that the private investigator, has seen a name on the registry, and he's got to pretend like his memory is fuzzy. So he's really sweating here, and it's communicated in that shot. Now notice we're closer up on the characters here. Things are closing in around Norman. The face is half in light, half in shadow on the investigator's face, making him appear intimidating. It's darkness around Norman's face in this shot. There's a strong light on his face and none of the light elsewhere. We're going to alternate between low-angle shots of Norman's face like that and higher shots. When we have these low-angle shots, it kind of gives us the sense that the character's under the hot lights. Like if you're in an old noir movie and the police officer brings in a criminal, he's going to be sweating under the hot lights. Now this is a higher angle shot, and we'll cut back down to that low angle, which darkens the information around his face. We'll cut back to that at particular moments in this scene. Like for example, in a moment when Arbogast says, did she spend the night with you? If not, then how do you know that she didn't make any phone calls? So that, when he's caught in that contradiction, we'll cut low again here. Now, this whole visit, the Arbogast visit, reminds us of Marion's visit to the motel in several key ways. We'll see this in a moment coming up. There's that low angle shot. There's a long dialogue scene where Norman talks with Marion earlier in the film. And the mirror is important here. Remember the mirror that we saw behind Arbogast that was framing him at the beginning of this scene. It's going to be important in this for remembering the earlier scene where Marion was in the bedroom talking with Norman. We see this scene here where there's a mirror framing her in the background. And really, so this is a different room and a different mirror, but there were certain, the filmmaker was certain to include a mirror here in both of these scenes. The Arbogast visit is really a mirror image of the Marion Crane visit. The difference here is we have intense dialogue scenes. In the earlier scene, Norman was kind of intimidating and oppressive, and in this later scene, he's now the victim of the investigator's questions here. But the framing of the characters, their position in relation to the camera is relatively similar in that. So Marion Crane occupies the left side of the frame, like Arbogast, and Norman occupies the right side of the frame in both of these scenes. So we have this long dialogue scene that plays out from earlier in the film is similar in certain respects to this later scene with Arbogast. The difference being that Marion seems vulnerable in this earlier scene, and Arbogast and Norman seems vulnerable in this later scene here. So the viewer is drawing on all these associations as they're watching this scene with Arbogast. Obviously, at the level of story, the viewer can remember this information, but some of this is done subliminally, just through the visual information that we're receiving without fully even being aware consciously of what's going on. That shot to the sign outside of the Bates Motel is an association that the viewer is drawing on, as is the mirror and the framing of the position of the characters in relation to the camera. Norman occupying the right side of the frame and the visitor always to the left here. And notice, so things have been very tense and claustrophobic here. Now we're gonna release the tension with a wide shot. As Norman laughs and says, "You can come check the rooms yourself if you want to." And look here, we're finally able to breathe in this scene. So it's just an example of how claustrophobia operates with camera work in a specific scene here.